Welcome to European Railway, the DVD magazine for the continental enthusiast. In this program we travel to Switzerland and to the station at Reichenau on the meter gauge Rhätischebahn. We look at the endangered German Class 420 electric multiple unit. A study is made of French diesel activity in the north of the country and in the south, close to the large town of Clermont Ferrand. A look at train action along the Elbe River Valley in the Czech Republic. Two locations feature as we pay a visit to the northwest of Zurich. We return to Germany to study rail traffic to the north of Oberhausen. And finally, we travel to a junction town in the south of Poland. In our first section, we travel to the southeast of Switzerland and to the small station serving the towns of Reichenau and Tamins. We are on the Rhätischebahn to the west of Chur, which is a busy two-track section of railway line. The station at Reichenau is the last location before the line splits to reach Disentis in the west and St. Moritz to the south. Arriving at the station is one of the hourly services to St. Moritz. This one is the 11:58 departure from Chur. These trains are long and regularly reach a dozen or so vehicles. S-Bahn services operate between Raisoons and Chiers, as well as to and from the town of Thusis. Operated by a type BE44 train set, a service for Thusis enters the station from the east. Freight traffic is fairly healthy on this line, with 5 services seen in just 2 hours. Arriving with westbound empty cement tanks is locomotive number 706. There is also an hourly service between Scuol Tarasp and Disentis. This is the 13:05 departure seen leaving behind GE 44623. As can be seen, many of the passenger trains also convey freight wagons at the rear of the formation. This is particularly common on services to and from St. Moritz. Just west of the station, the line crosses the River Rhine. Seen approaching with an S-Bahn service from Rhäsuns is number 513, a train set dating from 1971. The Hinter and Vorderrhein join here to create the famous Rhine River that runs north into Germany. Back at the station, and number 615 heads west with the 1405 service to Disentis. Number 643 entered traffic on the 22nd of February 1994 and is seen here in EMS Chemie advertising livery, departing with the 1258 from Chur to St. Moritz. The Class GE 662 locomotives are mainly used on freight services, although they do occasionally appear on passenger workings. Here, number 703 passes through the station with a train from Samedan. There are 8 passenger arrivals and departures each hour. Together with the freight, this line offers plenty of activity for the observer and photographer alike. Once common, the German Class 420 train sets are now concentrated around just a handful of German cities. The majority of the 480 units built have been withdrawn from service, having been ousted by their successor, the Class 423. Now concentrated around Stuttgart and Frankfurt, they are mainly used on peak-hour commuter services. The Stuttgart train sets are based at Plöckingen, where we see this set entering the depot for servicing on Monday the 18th of April 2011. The new contract for Stuttgart S-Bahn services, which comes into effect in 2013, involves the delivery of 83 new commuter trains. And this will mean the end of the Class 420s in this area. Some sets were built as recently as the mid-1990s, so there is a prospect that some will find further use elsewhere. Mainly, we think, in and around their other stronghold, Frankfurt-am-Main. In Frankfurt, the units usually work services on lines S1, S8 and S9. This one arrives at Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof's low-level platforms. The newer units in the fleet were constructed from aluminium instead of steel, in order to save weight and increase payload. The majority of those that remain in traffic will be around for at least the next 12 months, or even longer, so there is still time to see these trains in operation. We now journey to France, as we take a look at locomotive-hauled operations on tracks south of Boulogne and Clermont Ferrand. Our first section was filmed on Sunday the 3rd of April 2011, just to the south of Étaples, at the small village of Verton. Having just departed the station, we see a pair of new diesel units, with number 76711 on the rear, forming the 1623 to Amiens. Local services such as this are generally operated by this type of train set. Long-distance trains from Paris to Boulogne are formed of locomotive and coaches. Here, number BB67587 powers the 1419 from Paris. Most trains load to between 7 and 9 carriages. Following along behind is this pair of Euro Cargo Rail Class 66s on an intermodal train heading north towards Calais. '67 570 is in charge of the 1625 service from Boulogne to Paris. Some trains in 2011 were double-headed, such as in this view taken just to the east of Flandre. Our final scene in northern France is at Noyelles-sur-Mer, as BB 67587 powers away from the station with the 1836 service from Boulogne. The locomotive will work the train as far as Amiens. Diesel haulage of the Paris trains is set to continue this year, but with just 4 locomotives diagrammed, compared to the 5 used last year. Meanwhile, in the central part of France, this was the expected order of the day for services in 2012, with new diesel units having taken over the peak-hour commuter services south of Clermont Ferrand. This is one such example with a train for Issoire. The plan was that the new train sets would be ready to take over from the 2011 summer timetable, but a disastrous start took place with frequent failures and cancellation of services. To find a resolution, a decision was quickly taken to bring back the old trains and reintroduce the locomotive-hauled formations for the remainder of the summer and winter timetable. With evening joggers running alongside the line, number BB 67556 in original blue livery powers south with the 1642 from Ghana. Around 8 services in the morning and evening peaks are operated by these 1960 vintage diesels. Here number 67611 powers away from the station stop at Vic-le-Comte. The use of diesel-hauled train sets is reducing across France as new multiple units arrive. Those in this area have received a stay of execution due to the problems associated with the new trains, but how long it will last is anyone's guess. For now, the sight and sound of SNCF's Big Blue engines will continue. Our final scene shows the daily Marseille to Clermont Ferrand service leaving Vic-le-Comte. behind locomotive number 67613. To the east of Clermont Ferrand, on the route between St.Etienne and Roanne, a number of commuter services are still worked by locomotive and coach formations. Approaching the station at Le Fouilloux is 67344 on the 0652 from Roanne to St.Etienne. As the train disappears into the distance, 2012 may well be the last year when many of these diesel-hauled trains will be operating. reducing still further the ranks of one of France's most familiar class of locomotive. In previous issues of European Railway, we have looked at lines running along the Elbe River Valley in Germany, just to the south of Dresden. In this section, we begin a two-part feature looking at the railways running along the same river, but in the nearby Czech Republic. We start at the small junction station at Frenagny, before heading north to Kivitsa, and finally to Libochavany. Heading south is 162035, with the 1324 semi-fast service from St.Etienne to Prague. Stopping services operate each hour and are normally formed of Class 471 double-deck commuter trains. Freight trains were also seen here. This is 163001. We now move north to Kivitsa, which is just north of a large coal-fired power station. This complex receives coal from the mines around the town of Most. Usual traction for these trains is a single Class 122 locomotive. There are two lines that run on either side of the Elbe River. This one is on the route up from Prague, which sees most of the passenger traffic, whilst the other is a secondary line carrying mainly freight to and from Kolín. We saw around 4 passenger and 5 freight trains each hour on this particular stretch of line. Private freight companies are now starting up in the Czech Republic. This is a train being operated by Advanced World Transport. The locomotives are 753, 733 and 724, both of which have been modernized and fitted with new Caterpillar engines. We now move to the east side of the river and to the small town of Libočevany as 163259 passes with the 1648 from Ústí nad Labem to Kolín. The main passenger line is seen on the west bank of the river as another Class 163 electric heads north. Both lines are now much closer as they are squeezed into the steep valley sides. It is at this point that the river begins to cut through the České středohoří, or Middle Mountains as they are also known. It is this part of the rail route that we will be looking at in the next edition of European Railway. Our final scene shows a northbound freight headed by 123026, a class of locomotive common on this line. We now pay another visit to Switzerland and to the outer suburbs of Zurich as we look at activity through the station at Turgel, before we continue south to sample the freight traffic around the large marshalling yard at Limmattal. We begin at Turgel as we look south at the 1009 from Chur to Basel, powered at the rear by Class 460 locomotive number 095. There were around 20 trains seen through here each hour, with the majority being passenger workings as part of the Zurich S-Bahn network. The majority of these were operated by Class 450 train sets, as seen here. There were just 2 freight trains seen here each hour. This one is headed by number 11350. Most Zurich to Basel intercity and interregional services travel along this line. The Class 560 units are formed with various intermediate vehicles. This one has 2 trailer cars sandwiched between the power car and the driving coach. Other sets have 4 coaches, making them into 6-car rakes. Such formations are becoming more and more common. Good views of the station can be had from the nearby hill. This Class 450 unit heads north. This is the 1108 service from Zurich to Basel. An unusual observation here in the shape of one of SBB's railhead treatment trains, seen heading south. This is the 1136 from Zurich to Brussels and is powered by electric locomotive number 11206. During busier periods, Class 450 train sets can often be paired up. Up to 3 sets can be seen coupled together on the busier services. Finally, a trainload of hoppers passes through the station, hauled by RE66 number 11657. To see most of the freight traffic in the area, you will need to visit the large marshalling yard at Limmattal, and this is where we are heading next. Situated 14 kilometers northwest of Zurich's main passenger station, the complex handles much of the country's domestic freight traffic, as well as a fair amount of its international wagon load freight. Seen in the northbound arrival yard, Class AE66 number 11485 brings in a southbound freight at just after 3:05 on the afternoon of the 1st of February 2011. 5 minutes later, and it is the turn of 11648 to bring its train to a stand. This time of the day is particularly busy for freight traffic, with many arrivals from nearby towns and regional cargo centres. As can be seen, the complex is situated right next to the 4-track main line running from Zurich to Basel and Olten. All major shunting operations are carried out by the mighty Class AM66 heavy diesel locomotives. 6 of the class were purchased for use in the yard area in 1976, with each weighing in at 111 tons and equipped with a 2,466 horsepower engine. Freight trains arrive every 10 minutes or so. This one is headed by endangered Class AE66 number 11404, one of the oldest surviving examples and still sporting its original green livery with chrome body stripes. When pictured, it was about to celebrate its 56th birthday. Once locomotives have uncoupled from their train, they head south past the main sorting sidings and onto the locomotive stabling point, next to the train crew depot. freight trains from the south of Zurich pass alongside the main shunting facility to reach the arrivals yard. This is locomotive number 11267. The yard dates back to 1978, and today it seems as busy as ever, with constant arrivals and departures, due in part to the Swiss government's financial incentives keeping the country's freight on the rails and off the roads. Our final scene shows one of the refurbished Class AE66 locomotives, number 610439, as it heads off to the locomotive stabling point. The yard is busiest from late afternoon and on into the night, and is well worth a visit should you find yourself in the area. The industrial area around Oberhausen generates huge quantities of rail freight, which is handled by a number of private companies, as well as the state-owned operator. Our chosen location is just north of Oberhausen Yard on the line to Emmerich, our visit being made on the evening of the 18th of April 2011. Approaching the camera is Vossloh G2000 locomotive number 1272402 on a southbound rake of coal hoppers. Heading north and bound for the port of Rotterdam is Class 186 Electric, number 239, which is owned by CB Rail but subleased to Captrain. We recorded 14 movements here in 1 hour, including local passenger workings. It was also possible to see trains on the main line into Oberhausen Yard coming from the Bottrop direction. This is locomotive 203007. However, it is actually carrying number 203006. It belongs to the local private firm Bockholter Eisenbahngesellschaft. DB's 294855 passes the camera, with a trip freight bound for Oberhausen Yard. Nordwestbahn operate a number of passenger services in the area, including this service bound for Dorsten. This is 151082. One 46005 is on this service from Emmerich to Koblenz. RBH Logistics has this Vossloh G1206 diesel on hire from MRCE. It is seen crossing the tracks and heading north with a loaded coal train bound for one of the nearby steel-producing plants. Dortmunder Eisenbahn's Class G1206 number 401 leads 189204 on another train of southbound coal empties. Our final scene is of a pair of Class 189 locos working north, with a trainload of empty iron ore wagons from the steelworks at Dillingen to the port of Rotterdam. Our final section in this program comes from a rural junction town in southern Poland. The station at Kozlov is located on the main line between the country's capital, Warszawa, and the southern industrial city of Kraków. It is also on the main route between Radom and Katowice. In addition, the LHS broad gauge freight line also passes by here on its way to Katowice. Intercity trains between Warszawa and Kraków run every hour in each direction. Usual motive power for these trains are members of Class EP09. In this view, number 009 heads south through a hailstorm with the 0528 from Gdynia. With the hail shower now past, there is an opportunity to film this rainbow. Local trains are almost exclusively in the hands of the ubiquitous Class EN57 electric multiple units. This is number 887, rounding the curve from the Radom line with the 1344 from Kielce. Sharing duties with the EP09s are the EP07s. This one heads north at just after 3 o'clock on Wednesday the 13th of April 2011. Below, in the grounds of a local house, we glimpse this little beastie. Freight trains were not that common during our afternoon visit, with just 2 seen on the standard gauge tracks and 2 on the broad gauge LHS route. This is number ET41018, looking superb in the sunshine with its 2-tone green livery. Between 2007 and 2009, the LHS acquired 10 ST40 locomotives, which were complete rebuilds of the line's other diesel locomotive class, the ST44, or Class M62 as they are more commonly known. In this view, 3 of the class are heading north with a trainload of empty box wagons. Principal traffic flows on this line are iron ore, chemical, oil, grain and general merchandise. The line is single track, with passing places at many locations along its 400-kilometer route to the Ukrainian border. At the station, unit number 993 arrives with the 1616 terminating service from Krakow. The EN71s are a 4-car version of the EN57s. This one arrives with a service to Sedzijów. Returning to the road bridge just north of the station, we see EU 07235 with a train from Olsztyn. Built between 1965 and 1977, these locomotives power the majority of express passenger services in Poland. Number 182007 is operated by the private company CTL. Here it heads south towards Krakow with a trainload of coal hoppers. There are 56 Class 182s currently working for private companies in Poland, from an original fleet size of 168. They were built by Skoda between 1963 and 1968, and were once common throughout Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Finally, in this programme, we see a pair of ST44 diesels on the LHS line with a southbound mixed freight. This broad-gauge line offers the chance for Poland to be connected into the massive Russian and Ukrainian rail systems, something which is being taken advantage of as trade increases between these countries and the rest of Western Europe. We hope once again that you have enjoyed watching this edition of European Railway.